you can imagine a situation if there were no American power mediating between the Iranians and the Saudis. The Iranians would put enormous military pressure on Saudi Arabia. And Saudi Arabia, under that situation, could very well buckle. So that's what I think we should be worried about more than anything, is an America that doesn't defend its allies rather than an America that does.
How would you then rate the legacy of Donald Trump's administration's foreign policy against his predecessor then? You've been quite outspoken previously in your thoughts in terms of the very clear switch when the Trump administration took over.
So awesome instincts. Donald Trump, this is the thing you're dealing with Trump all the time. In domestic politics and in foreign policy, he has just uncanny instincts. I think he is weaker on coalition building, presentation of the vision, the vision behind the instincts, or that might explain the instincts, and spotty implementation. Sometimes implementation that was hit and miss. I have been saying since Trump started, really from day one, that the difference between Trump and Obama is that Trump has returned us to the concept of the United States leading a coalition. And I think that is, I think that's absolutely true. But you would be hard pressed to find a Trump statement that where he said that that's what he was doing, and explained what the ideas behind it were and how it was all going to work. And so you get situations where there's contradictions between some of the key policies and then some of the, let me give you an example instead of talking in the abstract. We have the maximum pressure campaign that Trump came up with. I mean, leaving the JCPOA, putting maximum pressure on Iran, particularly maximum pressure means economic sanctions, backed up by some military activity, such as the killing of Qasem Soleimani, but also the support, for example, the Israelis when they take action against the Iranians in Syria. Then you have all these trips by senior Trump officials to Lebanon to help save Lebanon. And now it's an American initiative to demarcate the maritime boundary between Israel and Lebanon. Why? So we can get economic investment in Lebanon. Now, the Lebanese system is dominated, controlled by Hezbollah, which is Iran's #1 proxy. Why are we trying to generate private sector investment in Lebanon? Why haven't we completely sanctioned with maximum pressure the banking sector of Lebanon, that is the banking sector of, that is the financial sector of Hezbollah? Well, we give it a pass. So we're actually now, American policy is actually working with the French and the Russians to bring in private sector investment in Lebanon. It's a complete contradiction. It makes no sense. And the U.S. is another area that's of interest to me. I just came back from Azerbaijan. The U.S. was basically aligning its diplomacy with the Russians in Azerbaijan. Now, the U.S. was kind of asleep on Azerbaijan. So to say it aligned its diplomacy is an overstatement, because it was mainly asleep. But when it woke up, during the war, it woke up a few times and it mumbled a few sleepy statements, and they were completely consistent with what the Russians were trying to were trying to do. And you would have the rise as I read the pattern. Where'd he go? Here he is. Oh, one more time. As I read the pattern of power in the Middle East, Azerbaijan is the ally of the United States. Well, it's not an ally of the United States, but it's an ally of Israel. It's an ally of Turkey. Its military has been trained to a NATO standard by a NATO military, Turkey. Turkey has muscled its way into the Caucasus and forced Russia to share power with it in the Caucasus. It's containing Russia, and it's doing even greater containment of Iran. The pressure that the rising Azerbaijan puts on Iran is enormous. So if you have a maximum pressure campaign against Iran, you should be in there on the ground, making sure that Azerbaijan wins and making sure that it's protected from the Armenians and the Russians. You certainly don't want to do anything that's going to help the Iranians and the Russians. But that's where American policy was moving. So I can find all around all these little areas where the policies that are being implemented are not consistent with the big ideas that the administration had, and that's a failure of the White House to develop the grand strategic concepts behind the major initiatives, and then to make sure that it's consistent throughout. Because what happens is, and you can see it if you read John Bolton's book. There's a lot in Bolton's book I don't agree with, but I think Bolton is honest. And I think when he describes the way that Trump interacts with people, you see that you get a demand signal from Trump on certain issues. I want this, I don't want that. But there's never any effort to elaborate it and explain it. And so what happens is that you can get in a lot of different areas, different parts of the bureaucracy can kind of just freelance and go do whatever they want. And it doesn't turn out to be a kind of coherent strategy in the end. So I give him, on the big stuff, that China, Iran, the killing of Qasem Soleimani was exactly the right thing to do. Nobody but Donald Trump would have done it. Moving the embassy to Jerusalem, recognizing Israeli law in the Golan Heights, all of that, those were beautiful steps which nobody other than Donald Trump would have done. So I give him A+ on all of those impulses. B- on larger concepts and policy cohesion.